Hello everybody, I am VGT, but we may be changing our name soon enough. As you see down in the bottom left hand corner, we have produced ourselves a little app. This is an AI assisted venture and my first venture in coding, as well as AI assisted coding, and I'm pretty happy with how this came out. If you're not familiar, this is a polar clock, and it's a type of way to tell time based on data representation. As you can see here, it is 1:59 p.m. and the hour is about to take over. That purple hand is the seconds, the blue one is the minutes, green is the hour, yellow is the day, and orange is the month. And as we see here, when a new hour takes over, the whole thing cycles again, and the representative percentage of the hour is represented by that tiny little sliver going on in the minutes. So, well, excuse the jump cuts. I am going to need to think about how best to say things, so the clock on the screen may be altering slightly as we go along. Anyways, I'd like to show you about the Polar Clock Pro. This is what you typically get with any kind of polar clock, and I love polar clocks. I have for the past 12 years or so, but I have never seen someone make the kind of clock that I want. The type of customization, the type of time management, alarms, timers, everything. The whole shebang in this format. So what we have here is in this little center icon, we have three little buttons. This one is the about me, not about me, but the about the clock, a little breakdown on how to use it. I think my video will be a little bit more helpful. What the Pomodoro technique is. We're going to get into that shortly. Here's some attributions. It's labeled as frequently asked questions, but this actually should be the attributions page. I need to change that. And we have a little feedback and suggestion bar, limited 3 per day. This is anonymous. As you see here, we just type in something and submit it. No information required, no email, no login. And I need to put my phone on mute. Oh, well, there we go. That was that was the email. Anyways, so there's the information. I do need to readjust these 3 information panels, be a little bit better. But moving on, I'm just going to show you a little brief look at this project. So we've got a clock-only mode. We've got a timer mode, a Pomodoro timer. I'll get into that again soon. We've got a stopwatch, a calculator, and a series of alarms. We'll get into that in a moment. But this is what I love the most about our design that we got here. So I'm just going to go through the settings real fast, and then you can get an idea of how to use it when you try it out for yourself. So we've got a 24-hour format and 12. As you can see there, the representative percentage of the day is being represented because it's only 1 p.m. or excuse me, 2 p.m. here, so it marks as 2 p.m. on the clock. However, that's 1400, so it's 14 hours. Anyways, we also have these little digital displays. So if eyeballing the time isn't your thing, you can get your information at a glance a lot easier. As you can see, it is the 17th of October, and it is currently, let's put that back to 12 hour, 2:03 in the afternoon. So yeah, like I said, it's 2:06. Forgive the time jump again. Anyways, let's move on. Color schemes are something that has always been an interest of mine because typically polar clocks always have the same kind of RGB rainbow theme. But as a colorblind person, I like the colorblind palette. I have this little candy. This is actually a little more pastel than the pastel is. I'm trying to rework some of this. It is still a work in progress, but as you see right here, oh, I can highlight that. As you can see right here, it is considered version 1.0 for the time being, because I'm pretty happy with it, and I think I'm relatively ready to share it with y'all. So we've got ourselves a grayscale. I would like to add some more effects when I get the chance to. Sunrise, sunset. You know what? Why am I showing you all these colors? We don't even have all the bars. This sounds, it's kind of work in progress, but there's a volume slider there. But day of the week and week of the year are things that you don't often see in a polar clock, and that were very important to me, as well as these little separators. So we have a better understanding. As you can see here, these ones on the second hands are aligned to each one of the numbers on the clock. So there are 12 segments, so you can easily see which which 5-second segment we are on at any given moment. Same with the minutes and the hours. The days are divided into the number of days in that month, so it will check what month it is and then make it according. Not same with the month, but these are divided into the amount of months per year. And then right down here, it's a little bit, I need to make this a little bit more opaque, but these three bars represent the day of the week. As you see here, it is Wednesday. I do have it start on Monday, go all the way to Sunday, but it is Wednesday, so we have that information there. But I go and take it a step forward. I like, data as designed, so we have the ruler mode. So this actually breaks the second hand. It doesn't do anything to the weeks of the year, but it breaks the second hand into the individual seconds, so you can actually see which second that we are passing by. As long as you can read a ruler and a clock, then it becomes pretty quick anyways. And the ruler mode on the month arc divides itself into four segments, so you can see that in the month of October, we are currently into our third week, just the first couple days into the third week of the month, so it's getting pretty late. And then that is all we have designated for ruler mode, but this is a lot of information. It's a lot of lines, and sometimes you don't need all that, so I'm going to actually turn off the month, the day, the hour, the week of the year, and we don't need the minutes. Let's leave we'll leave the minutes on there. So we have now just the information that we need. We can go ahead and close our settings panel. I need to make that a little more transparent, but we have just the information that we need at a glance, because I obviously know that we're in the month of October. I do know that it is the 17th day, and I do know that it is indeed Wednesday. So we don't necessarily need the division to find out exactly what part at a glance, but the minutes and seconds are very helpful. I already know that it's 10, getting into 10 minutes and 30 seconds. So, once you learn how to kind of read it, as long as you know how to read an analog clock, you'll know how to read a polar clock. Let's go ahead. Let's get rid of the day of the week. No, you know what? We still want to show the colors. Let's bring this back to standard mode and then go back to the visual colors. So now you have all the represented arcs and all the different color themes represented here. And I went through and put in the hexadecimal values for each of these to try to kind of control it, but I am going to be having some more customization options in the future. Sunrise. One of these, sunrise and sunset, I think sunrise I'm going to rework and have a few more purples in there. I feel like it's not represented enough. And then we also down here have a full-on color palette, so red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. But sometimes people don't like the dark sides on the outside, so let's go ahead and reverse that palette. So all this does is it does keep the hour hand the same because that is the center line, but it just flips the order, so darkest to lightest is the default, and then lightest to darkest is how it flips around. And this works with all the clocks, all the styles, so red on the inside, white on the outside here, and then red on the outside, white on the inside. Same with neon. So a little bit of customization there. I am going to try to make it so you can pick and choose which bars get which color. You can even have certain bars have the same color. I don't know if I'm going to be able to switch the styles in between and get like neon for the second and pastels for, the minutes or anything, but I am going to try to work on that because customization of a polar clock is kind of important in my mind, at least with the app that I wanted to design, the one that I said that nobody has made in the last 12 years. This is it, is complete customization. And correct me if I'm wrong, I tried to do some research on available polar clocks, and it seems like there's not a lot out there, so but I've never come across one since I've been around. But anyways, that moves us on to our next little segment called Flow. I'm going to have more documentation on that in a little bit, but we're going to go ahead and put that to a minute. As you see here, you have minute, 5 minutes, 10, 15, 30, BSG, hour, quarter, half, and a day. That's half an hour, or half a day, excuse me. So that's every 12 hours, and then a day. But we're going to keep this on a minute so I can show you what that does here in a second. And yeah, so that's kind of it for our settings with the exception of inverse mode, but I'm going to wait till I can show you flow before getting into that. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. I'll meet you at the end of the minute. So what flow mode does is at whatever interval you decide to set it to, it actually changes the style. It has this little animation. So now we are on what I believe is the yellow. Let's go ahead and check that out. Yeah, we are in the yellow palette, and so it'll just cycle through here. I originally came up with this idea for the 15-minute mark, the idea that every quarter hour it would change, kind of like the old antique stand-up clocks that would have the song that would play, or sometimes church bells, where every quarter hour there is some kind of marker. So that's what started that, but then I realized I needed to test it because I wasn't going to wait 15 minutes between every change. So I changed it to 1, and at that point I realized why stop there when customization is key. So let's go ahead, and we're going to watch one more switching of the palettes, this time with this up, and then I'm going to show you inverse mode. Oof, sunset, nice. Put this back on regular. So, inverse mode is, well, as you can see, inverse. It is now, rather than counting where the second hand is in accordance to where it is on the clock, it is now counting down. I mean, it's still doing that. It's still exactly where it's supposed to be, you know, and this is, but what it is it's counting down how many seconds are left in that minute, how many minutes are left in the day, so on and so forth. So on a 24-hour clock, oh, that number needs to update. Cool. Bug fixing as we go along. But this is actually relatively, like, completely stable. It just has a few minor features that either need to be worked on or noticed. And by showing it to y'all, I have more eyes on it and can help me out. And that's why I strongly encourage you to use this feedback and suggestions bar. If you have any trouble getting into it like I just did, just refresh the page. But anyways, I talked through the transition of inverse mode, and that was essentially, it was something that needed to be fixed because the logic that I used for the transition in the first one just didn't work. But I kind of like this transition a little bit better. Watch this. Gets the complete fill. One of the things about polar clocks that I never liked is that when the bar reached reached the 12 o'clock position, it basically just returned or disappeared. Like whichever direction it went, if it was completely full, it would just vanish, and if it was completely empty, it would just fill. And I didn't like that. It wasn't smooth. It wasn't pleasing to me, and so on more than one New Year's, I've been able to watch the polar clock completely fill, except for just here. Let me get this actually back in. I'll keep it, but completely fill except for just the sliver of December 31st at 11:58, and just watching the seconds hand, and then seeing the entire clock completely wipe and reset. It was very nice. It was very pleasing. I didn't have much going on that New Year's, very uneventful, but, I happened to be at my computer and I got to see it. Not with this one. Oh, that's the blue scale. But, put that back. Kind of like the grayscale. I didn't think that I was going to like the grayscale, but I kind of like it. Let's just go ahead and put this into default for now. We're going to get rid of the day of the week of the year, the month, the day. Yeah, so we're just going to keep the hours, minutes, and seconds. We'll keep that up for now. All right, so now it is time. Those are all the settings that you can go and play around with, at least currently. I will have updated versions of this as I go along. Some of the ideas that I have in the future are I'm going to try to experiment with getting PNGs added. So rather than a color, the bar is representing whatever image is in there. I wanted to do space, each bar represented a different planet. I did get a slightly working prototype of that, but that was really early on, and I didn't have the framework to support it going forward, so we kind of abandoned that for the sake of simplicity and stability. But that is something that I am going to be working on in the 2.0 version for the next whatever big update that I can get to this. So there's that. And then the ability to upload your own photos would be kind of cool. I think that's going to take some work because obviously you're going to need to center it depending on where, like how the positioning of the photo is. Well, you might not even really see much because you're only showing this thin bar of data going all the way around. So I'm going to have to figure that out. And another big goal is to get this onto mobile. As you see here, it does work on a screen, but it is a little cramped. It is a little clunky. As you see here, trying to hit stopwatch can be a little troublesome. Oh, jumped ahead. Showed you a feature we hadn't even got yet. But it does work on a mobile screen. However, it is definitely not mobile ready. And I would like to make this into an app. So that is going to be another step forward that we're going to be working on. But yeah, anyways, let's show you the features. So like I mentioned before, you know, this is the clock that I've always wanted that nobody has ever made. And a lot of polar clocks is just this clock. You know, it's an interesting feature. It's a fun little novelty, but most people give up on it fairly quickly because it's not an easy way of telling time. Like, what time is it right now? If I didn't have this with that covered, you know, what time is it right now? You can't always rely on that. So a lot of people end up abandoning polar clocks, but that doesn't matter. I'm not really trying to, you know, push this to anyone really. This was kind of my learning project. Get my feet wet before working on something a little bit bigger with more responsibilities or more moving parts. So honestly, this is for me, and it's been really helpful with my work because I can just use better time management, and that was kind of the inspiration for it. I've got 2 monitors at my screen at my desk. I typically only need one to work on. So having this clock on the left-hand side, a very easy visual representation of what I have left. So let's go ahead and reset that. So the timer, as you see here, shows nothing until you put in, let's say, 1 hour. Start. Whoops. I need to add the enter feature into there so you can hit it. You can either do like that, or you can do let's say 1 hour and 41. Sorry. So you can either do it, you know, numerically, or you can do 1 hour like that. The one thing you can't do is numbers and letters. I can't. I have this feature in a couple different aspects, and I think one of them still struggles with one part. But regardless, so this is the hour. Oh, it's set to the other style. Shoot. Anyways, this is a full 100% style. I think I need some better language here because it's not exactly clear. But when you start the timer in this style, everything is completely filled and it counts down. So that way, by the time it's done, it goes around. It doesn't actually represent what it would be on the clock. Well, that's 59 minutes. Let me get a better time here. 3 hours, 27 minutes, 55 seconds. There we go. All right, so 3 hours, 27 minutes, 52 seconds. So as you see here, it actually does represent the amount of time on 27 seconds would be right there. 3 hours would be right there. Yep. All right, perfect. So this is representing what it would look like on a clock, on a polar clock. So when you have it in 100% style, I have to, shoot. Yes. So when you have it on 100% style, what it does is it takes the highest number that you have and makes that the 100% mark, and then adjusts everything according to that. So if we were to have it just as an hour, everything would be full at the top. Like this. Because it goes 59 minutes and then 1 hour, 54 seconds. So I do have some noises to choose from here. I turned that down. The bell is actually quite loud, which is where the volume feature came into effect. But as you see here, let's say 10 seconds. We're going to put this on a repeat. You know what? Let's make that 12 seconds. So it just, as you see here, it took the highest numerical value, put it at 100%, and gives you a visual countdown representation of it. And then at the end of that interval, our bell sounds, and the second time we go around, it will sound again. But let's go ahead and put it onto an even more annoying sound, the ahooga. And so once it reaches the 12 o'clock position, you get one of those. You get two of those. I turned everything down in the video, so just be careful when using it in the beginning. I have a nice little ominous boom. For those of you who have used Lenovo, you might know this one. And you know, there's more to go through, but I will let you explore and find that yourself. So we're going to go ahead and when you remove the repeat, the mute button doesn't work. Okay, I have to work on that. When you remove the repeat, it stops the timer. So this is useful if you need to track certain tasks, or like if you want to be like, hey, I'm just going to work for an hour or so. Oops, pause. I'm just going to work for an hour or so, and then you put it on, or like, oh, I'm going to work for an hour and 29 minutes exactly. And then you put it on there. And allows you to track it that way. And I like the visual of a bar pulling, emptying. And so I can just kind of glance over and visually see like, oh, I have only like 25 or 15% left of my time. At that point, I can start framing myself in the mindset of finishing up, wrapping up what I need to do. And it has actually been extremely helpful. The Pomodoro, you know what, let's get onto a better color scheme. There we go, like candy. The Pomodoro is actually what kind of started a lot of the design features out of this, because I had the clock originally, and then I wanted the Pomodoro timer to help keep myself on track and stuff. Now, there is some information here. Okay, well, that needs to be fixed as well. So there's information here about the Pomodoro timer that is also, I think, a little bit different than the one in the information. Let's get that off the screen. There we go, reloaded the page. And as you see here, I reloaded the page, and it kept the theme, it kept the amount of arcs, the styles, all that stuff. So I didn't have to keep setting up, because, you know, I have it on flow mode, so it changes, but if I like it, you know what, actually, yeah, let's keep with candy for a little bit. You know, I can set this clock up the way that I want to, and then just let it be. Every time I need to open it, it's always in the style that I like. All right, so let's get back onto the Pomodoro. So the technique is essentially you work in cycles. So you work for 25 minutes, and then you take a short break. This is actually 5 minutes. You take a 5-minute break. Then you work for 25 minutes. You take a 5-minute break. Then you work for one last cycle of 25 minutes, and then at that point you take a 15-minute break. And then you repeat the process, work for 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break, work for 25 minutes, so on and so forth. And this was a productivity feature that a student in college ended up utilizing in his own life, and then created into kind of a workplace philosophy. So I found it very helpful. And yeah, so let's go ahead and hit start the cycle. Continuous mode allows it to just flow directly into the next cycle. If you have it turned off, what it will do is it will actually stop at the end of the work cycle to allow you to kind of, rather than lose time on your break, it allows you to just stop the cycle itself. So now, rather than waiting the 24 minutes and 37 seconds, as you can see here, it's just gonna, it's just gonna count down. This is all gonna empty out, and at the end of the thing, we're gonna have the slivers here. So to show you how this process goes, let's go ahead and pause this. We're going to reset it, and we're going to customize this to be a minute. We're going to have a minute long break and a 2 minute long break, because I just love how this came out. So let's go ahead. We'll turn on continuous mode, and then you shall see. We're actually going to change it to 2 minutes, 2 minutes, and 3 minutes. So there we go. So you can adjust the work to however you want. You know, if you want to focus and be like, hey, I just want to get 45 minutes worth of work done, just type in 45. If you want to be like, I want to work for 2 hours straight and then take a half an hour break, put it in, you know, then you have that ability. I believe you have to put it in minutes form, but I'm going to try to give some logic here so you can have multiple variations. I like the idea of typing words in and making numbers. We have a calculator in here that I can show you in a little bit that you can actually use words and numbers together. And so I enjoy that. So as we approach the end of our work cycle, no matter what you do, you're going to need to know that it's coming up, because people can't just stop working immediately. They need a little bit of a warning to kind of wrap up things. So if you're about to take a break, get yourself in the mindset. I present to you my solution. So just a nice, pleasing little song. The attributions are in the info, but I was very happy with how this came out. This will always start at 58 seconds from the end. You can mute it if you need to. You can unmute it. You can also hit the snooze button. That'll add 5 more minutes. So if you just really need to get more time, you can just go ahead and do that. So as you see there, it will add 5 more minutes onto the clock, and then it won't produce the next cycle until we get there. So I will go ahead and reset this, and I'll see you in a second. And the song comes to the end at the end of the cycle. So once you know how the song goes, you know exactly how much time you have to pick up your things, get everything saved, get your desktop how you want it, and stretch and get out and get yourself a break. As you see here, we set only a short 2 minutes for our break, so we can go ahead and get on to the next cycle, and I can show you how that works. But yeah, this was really, really useful, as I had to spend a lot of time at my computer, a lot more time at my computer than normal, and focus on not only designing this, but learning other AI features, setting up small business tools and things like that. So yeah, by having something this helpful and something that I actually enjoyed and was excited about, I actually learned a lot. I kind of got tricked into learning how to actually code. You know, vibe coding is a lie. You do have to put in the effort. But here is our song for the short break, slightly different. And once again, this starts up a minute or 58 seconds before the end to allow you to kind of refresh yourself and reframe yourself to get back into work mode, get yourself, you know, back to your desk, whatever you need to do, or honestly, whatever timer you want to use this for. If you need a 5-minute timer followed by a 10-minute timer, or, you know, vice versa, things like that, you can use this to kind of balance multiple at a time. One of our future designs is to actually have multiple clocks enabled at the same time using their multiple features. So we could actually have multiple timers, alarms, as well as the standard clock. But there we go. The cycle is over. It jumps back over to work. So it's going to be on this cycle for the next 2 minutes. It's going to be on the short break again for 2 minutes. It's going to be back on the work cycle for 2 minutes, and then it will be on the long break. And there's a different song at the long break, but for now, I will just let you discover that yourself. All right, so moving on, we've done the timer and the Pomodoro. Naturally, a stopwatch is the next logical choice in a clock app. So as you see here, nothing is drawn currently, but once we hit start. I'm going to have interval sounds of 30, wait, that's 30 minutes, 30 seconds. There we go. And it's going to play the stopwatch sound. You do have a list of them here. I wouldn't recommend, you do have the short break end, the work end, and the long break end. So if you do want to hear what the songs are, you can come over here and hit test on those. But I wouldn't recommend using them as your interval sound here. They're just way too long. So, but yeah, so we can start our timer, and as expected, it just fills out the arc like you would imagine, you know. So our seconds are going around in, 1 second intervals. The minute is slowly creeping forward, and it goes up to an hour. I don't have the day marker yet. That's actually going to come in a later update, because I am going to kind of expand on the stopwatch feature to be kind of like a work tracker. So there we go. Our first 30 seconds have passed. So if you need to know, if you need to have a timer but not have to look at it, but also know when a certain amount of time has passed, either, a minute, 15 minutes, half an hour, whatever, just set it to the interval. Put the timer on and just let it go. This will also help you keep track of how long you've been working for. You can hit lap. I wonder. Okay, so when we hit lap, it made the sound. That's also. Excuse me, I didn't even know that there were a few extra stray pieces here. Still missing. Anyway, so there we go. So that is stopwatch mode. Again, that's going to be having a few more updates to it as we go along. So a few final features. A calculator. I want to have this available in more places. So in the Pomodoro, I want a link to the calculator. So if you're like, oh, if I'm going to work three cycles of 25 minutes, I'm going to have 2 cycles of a short break and, 1 cycle of a long break, and I'm going to do that 4 times today. How much time am I spending on my breaks? Bam. Time calculator right there. And then you could be like, all right, well, maybe I'd take less breaks or take more. You can get that information at your fingertips and then utilize it wherever you want. In the timer, it's like, hey, what is, 2 days plus 3 days plus 16 hours plus 500 minutes, and put it all together. And you're like, okay, I'll set my timer for half that. Whatever you want to do, there's a calculator for it. So you can put in your start time, and then add some durations to this. So we can do 2 hours, 10 minutes, and then calculate. And then as you see here, the result. Oh, whoops, I put 2 minutes, 10 seconds, 2 hours. Okay, well, this bit right here is a little broken. I'm going to be working on that soon. and these changes are going to actually be coming soon, because I am not quite done with this yet, but I am finally just relatively happy enough with it to show you. And some of the bugs, you can only find once you've kind of put yourself out there, like I'm doing right now. But I'm leaving this part in the into the footage, because I want to show you that this is still a work in progress, and it's not perfect. But I did spend quite a lot of time on this. I did not simply type in, hey, give me a polar clock with a bunch of features and make it look like how I wanted. Bam, bing, bam, boom. No, there was a lot of back and forth, a lot of broken pieces. I've had to restart. I put it all in a single HTML. Then I broke it off into different folders and file types. And then I put it back and broke it off again. And I went through and manually adjusted all the colors. These icons right here are not the standard icons that the AI offered. I went out and found some commercially available icons, which I want to give a quick shout out here to uxwing.com. Y'all are awesome. They are the website that had the icons. Free to use commercially. They don't even really ask you to give attributions. You don't really even need to say where you got the icons, but they say like, hey, it's nice. It's nice if you do that. And so, heck yeah, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate the the effort. Let's put a couple of these back in. We don't need as much data. Just the hours and the minutes. That, and put it back onto flow mode. Cool. Yeah, so it wasn't just a situation of quote unquote vibe coding. This was definitely, I would still say that this is AI coding, but absolutely AI, human assisted AI coding. Lastly is our alarms page. Big emphasis on work in progress. Alarms do not work yet. It looks very nice. It has a lot of features. You can track the alarm right here. As you see there, it adds a new bar, and that actually goes counterclockwise. Typically, it's red on most things, but for candy, apparently, candy and apparently neon, it took the stylings of. I actually haven't gone through the color palettes to see if it's red on everything. Yeah, so just candy and neon, it just it appreciated. But yeah, flow. Anyways, yeah, so you can track the alarm here, but I have noticed that this thing doesn't quite update well enough, and I also have noticed that the sounds don't always work when this page is not up. But you can add a bunch of different alarms for all sorts of stuff. We've got a repeat mode. You can name the label like, hey, how ya doing? You can put it into a group that says, fine you. Like that, hit that, there you go. So now we have a group. You can put some details. Hiya. And add a sound. So we're going to do boom, and then give it a color. Let's do yellow. Bam. So now we have an alarm. Hiya. 7:30 a.m. How you doing? Fine you. So it's got your group information here. Let's go ahead and get rid of these. I got a batch edit, so you can go ahead and delete a bunch. You can also add alarms. Oh wait, that's not okay. Let's just add. You know what? Give me a second. I'm gonna add a few alarms, and I'll show you after that. Oh, I did change the time. Okay, so I need to change that as well. But batch editing, groups with templates, alarms, all of that is going to be hooked into the polar clock as well. So that way, as you're working, as you've got your thing on the left monitor, right monitor, whatever, the secondary monitor, or on your phone, wherever you choose to have it, you have the information available. Now this track, let's track. There we go. Yeah, so you could have a look and see how much time is left for your alarm. But yeah, that is all the features we've got so far. That is all that I have for today. So, like I said, this is kind of a first for me. I've never done any coding, much less AI-assisted coding, and I enjoyed the process. I ended up getting tricked into learning HTML and bug identification and workarounds and fixes and spotting, misspellings and things like that. I've had to kind of force myself. Oh, look at that! I've had to kind of force myself to sink or swim with this. And like I mentioned, I very well could have just said, hey, give me a Polar app, and then gone with it. In fact, I will show you some of those pictures at some point of what what it originally gave me. But yeah, I wasn't happy with it. I wanted to make something that was unique to me, that was the idea that I had been missing for 12 years. And so, yeah, thank you for watching this. Thank you for joining. The clock is called the Polar Clock Pro version 1.0. The link is in the description. I can't believe it's taken me that long to say that, but thank you for bearing with me anyways. But that is it. I have been the VO Gemini Tutor. I am possibly going to change my name of my channel to Salamanca Tech, because that is going to be where I create my code from now on. I have been doing less VO3 and more Notebook LM and Gemini, and learning how to utilize these tools to help small businesses, to do coding. This all came about because I needed to make an app for a very specific purpose, which is actually still on still on my docket, still on the work pile. But now I have a better idea of how to code. So when I get started on that, it should be a lot less frustrating. So once again, let me know if you have any questions. Email me if you want any kind of training in Gemini. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.